Anyway, thanks everybody for showing up tonight. We tried, the word got out, I think, the last 2 weeks ago, tomorrow. We tried this and we lost power due to the PG&E shutting us down. And so we decided to, and I couldn't do it last week, so we're supposed to be tomorrow night,
But I got invited to go fly fishing for 4 days.
fly fishing with that. So we did a last minute spur of the moment invite here, and it looks like, it's worth doing it. And I we didn't have too many of our regular members, mostly guests. But anyway, I'm Fred, N6YEU, and I'm doing the presentation tonight. And it's roughly titled 20 plus years of County Expeditions for CQP. I've got interested many years ago. I think I counted up the other day because I couldn't remember. I just said 20 plus, but I think it's been 23 or 24 years that I've gone portable for CQP. I like going out portable, like camping and various things. So I just kind of put two and two together. And, there's some counties where I usually go somewhere where it's kind of rare or they need it. I've actually gone last minute decisions like 2 days before where I'm going kind of thing, but I do try to plan a little bit ahead of time. And I didn't bring all my, I knew there was something I forgot, but I had my very first real attempt at a decent county expedition was 1998, I believe. Was Modoc County, and that was a long drive up. That's the very north. If you don't know where it is, it's the northeast corner of the state of California. And I went to a forest fire lookout up there on a place called Mendocino Mountain. And the guy that was manning the station was there. He'd go home at night, but he was there during the day. And so I had company, I guess. And it snowed. I had just an old tent, canvas camping tent, and I woke up in the morning, there's like 2 inches of snow. So it was a little cool, but that's part of the fun of the whole thing. You never know what you're going to get. But anyway, I've been doing it every year, except for I missed a couple of years and for various reasons. And 1 year, 2 or 3 years ago, I guess it was 2017, I actually operated from West Virginia on the other side. I went to visit my daughter there, and I couldn't get out of it kind of thing. This year I actually was there also, but I came over so I could do CQP. But anyway, we'll go ahead and start here because I don't want to bore you to death. But I'd like to thank Jim here at K6JS. He's the one that's my tech guru. He's kind of helped me struggle through putting this thing together. And I actually did this once before for the Valley of the Moon Radio Club, and then he's gone in and adjusted it a little bit, made it a little nicer, changed the photos a little bit. But anyway, so the very first, actually, this is my first kind of attempt of portable, which I went to Yuba County, a private camp, a place called Collins Lake. And I started out, I had no idea what I was doing. So the day one, I used a 20-meter ham stick mounted to my truck there, and the rig was just laying on the seat, and I was getting all kinds of RF and burning my fingers and everything else. But I struggled through, I don't know, 50 or 60 Qs. And this is me too, back when I had a lot of hair and a beard. And the second day I decided, okay, I'm going to stay here. So I got a campsite there and strapped, that last picture was the same spot with the TA-33.
The last one?
Strapped to the picnic table at about 10 feet off the ground, shooting out over the lake. And I made a few more. So it was interesting. I had no idea what I was getting into. Next one, I guess. And then that's when 98. Okay. This is what it looked like up on. This is one thing I like about CQP. You never know where you get out in some of this really beautiful country. This is right on top of a mountain. The forest fire lookout was off to the right there, to the right of the picture. This was kind of a relatively flat spot there. So I set up, and it looks like my C3, Force 12 C3 on one of those military masts. And I only usually go up about 30 something feet. And off to the right was I guess a HF2V or something like that in my tent. And I actually had a real QSL card printed up for that one. Had over 1,000 contacts, which, you know, is nothing super exceptional, but for me, I thought that was pretty cool. And I think I worked like 57 mults or something like that. Anyway, next. Yeah, this was the next morning when I woke up and I said, whoa, it's cold out here. And so I scratched my call sign on the windshield. But it, as soon as the sun started coming out, it pretty much melted off right away. So it wasn't too bad. Good. And the next year I went up to Lake County, which is northeast of here. This place is up near, Lake Pillsbury, if anybody knows where that is. It's east of Ukiah, and set up, just had no idea where I was going there. I just kept driving up in the mountains until I found a kind of a halfway decent spot and set up for the weekend. And I'd upgraded to a tent trailer, a Coleman tent trailer rather than just a tent on the ground, and somewhat limited to where I could go, but I've drug that thing into some places that probably shouldn't have gone over the years, but it's one of them. But anyway, that's where I set up. Next. This, it's hard to tell. It wasn't the greatest picture, but I woke up in the morning on Saturday. This is also at the same spot, and that's a little California black bear there that's came to visit. In fact, he was actually, I heard something outside. I opened the door of my tent trailer, and here he is looking at me like 6 or 8 feet away. He took off and went up there, and I got a shot of him just before he headed over the other side of the ridge. But never know what you're going to have out there. This is kind of a typical scene. This was, I think, in Glenn County when I went up there. My tent trailer and just getting all this stuff laid out. And this was a place that had been a loading landing area for logging, I guess. A lot of, brush and branches and stuff, but it was a nice flat spot there. So I set up there. This is, Del Norte. I've been up to Del Norte County 3 times, and that's, again, if you don't know where it is, it's the very northwest corner of the state, up above Crescent City, bordering on the Pacific Ocean on the west and Oregon on the north, and I think Siskiyou on the right, and Humboldt below it. So it's always one of the ones that they always need somebody to operate from. There's no real active contesting hams that live in Del Norte County. So, and it's a beautiful spot. I like it going up there. I've been in 3 different, I don't go to the same spot. I've been to 3 different sites up there, but anyway, it's a nice area. Redwoods. This was back in 2004, obviously. Frank, who I think is here, who's now KG6N. He was KD6KVL, a young buck, and we went up to his father-in-law's place up and did a 2-man, and we just celebrated the 2nd time around for the same team. Just this year, we went to Mendocino County, 16 years later. I can't believe it was that long ago, but we set up there, and anyway, the next picture I think will show you. This wasn't one of the more picturesque places. It had been burned over, and there's father-in-law owns the property but doesn't live there, so he had a storage, like one of the shipping containers, and we set up next to that. It wasn't the most picturesque area, but it did the job for us. Okay, good. There's Frank, and this is inside of what we used to have for our, what I used to have my tent trailer.
A young Frank.
Yeah, that's Frank when he had a lot more hair, and well, not on purpose. He didn't lose it like I did naturally. He cut it, but anyway, he's a pretty good guy. This was going into Colusa County. I took the long way and came up to Ukiah and went in up to Clear Lake and came in kind of the west area and it was a little of a challenge getting there. Anyway, it wasn't the most fun trip, but once I got there, it was fine. But they went a couple ways I probably shouldn't have done, but at the time I didn't know where I was going. So, and this is close to, well, I think the next picture is a place called Goat Mountain. Yeah, Goat Mountain, which I would have liked to, it would have been cool to be on top of Goat Mountain, but, and I guess you could get up there, but this was a better spot for, setting up the radio gear here. So that's where I went. Yeah, I was trying to keep an animal theme over the years, like Goat Mountain, and now I'm going to Cow Mountain, but sometimes you can't do that. But this one was, Cow Mountain is located just east of downtown Ukiah, and it's Bureau of Land Management property. And I went up there, I went to the BLM office. They said that there's a campground, but I went to the campground and it was on the west side of the ridge. And so I thought, well, that's not going to do me any good. So I drove back up and I found this place. And I think it's a...
Isn't that part of the gun range, Fred?
It's near there, yeah. There is a gun range on the way in, yeah. Let's see, the north side of, you go in a county road and you turn left and you go where I'm at right here. And that's open for... camping and whatever. I guess you can go shooting, and there is a gun range there. And on the south side is a off-road vehicle, motorcycles, Jeeps, that kind of thing are allowed on the south part of this property. But this was, I think, possibly a helicopter landing pad type of thing for probably fire. Probably shouldn't have been there, but I actually went back and stayed at the exact same spot a couple years later. So, but nobody ever came by and said, hey, you shouldn't be here. So I just stayed there. So this, I did this little, I was in the printing business. So I had one of the girls on the computer do a little collage of pictures and stuff, but this was going up into Sierra. Yeah, that was one that caught me by surprise. I didn't look at any kind of weather report, and I'm driving up by Auburn on heading up to Tahoe way, and all of a sudden it starts snowing, and looked like feather, pillow, duck feathers. It was big, these big fluffy flakes. And I said, oh man, what's going on here? So I pulled over at the roadside rest, and I said, I don't have any chains or anything, but it wasn't that bad. So I just tucked in behind a big old semi truck and went over to Truckee. And by I got down into Truckee, it was fine. It was actually not snowing there. And then, but where I was heading was a lot of snow. So I ended up finding a spot a little lower elevation, and it got really cold at night, but the next day the sun came out, and the Saturday and Sunday were perfect, really good weather. And that's my old dog, who's no longer around, but she used to hang around with me on some of these trips. This is another one I did up in Trinity. This is located west of Redding on the way up to Whiskeytown. And when you go up, Ken, I'm sure you know where, 299, you go up and up and up and up, and then you get to the top of you peak out and start to drop down, and that's the county line between Trinity and Shasta. And I turned left there, and it's all, this is also Bureau of Land Management property. Right, literally, I was probably standing right on this county line. The road goes kind of in and out, but got pretty cold that night too. But nothing fancy. I think I had a 2-element stepper that I used this time. I upgraded to the 2-element stepper, which actually belongs to the DX Club, which we've upgraded to a 3-element. But anyway.
What rig is that?
That's the FT 950 Yaesu. That was my first.
No, that's like a TS 850 in that picture.
It could be.
Hold on, let me zoom in. Yeah, that's a TS 850, Fred.
Okay. I thought I got that 950 or 9. What is it? Anyway, thanks for that's what I did have one of those. Then I went back up to Del Norte. This is the QSL card in the corner there. You can kind of see it's that's probably the 950. Kind of a cool shot. You're looking down over the photo in the lower right corner, that's the fog coming in off the Pacific and working its way up through all the valleys there below, and pretty, just a nice, and I found a spot that was, it was like an abandoned, well, I guess it was abandoned, kind of an old county road. It was paved, but it was going from Crescent City and working its way eventually over to Hoopa Indian Reservation. But at one end, they had closed it off. So there's hardly anybody ever went by there. I think one car the whole weekend I was there, some hunters or whatever. But so it was nice being out, kind of out by myself there.
Do you ever have issues with growers? Or?
No, well, no, I never have, but I always make sure I'm keeping my run frequency guarded. Right. Yeah, I have this old 12 gauge shotgun I bring along, but
we got another one of those this year.
they're yeah, I'm not a big gun nut, but I always have my gun there just in case, but I've never had to, protect myself or anything. Just makes you feel better that you're, especially when I'm out there by myself. Good. And this was a fun one. I went to up in Lassen County, and that's 2011, and I got at this place called Dow Butte, and it's just basically the top of a mountain there. I think it used to have a forest fire lookout, but it's abandoned now. But the camper there now I've upgraded to a pop-up camper on the back of my truck, but in that you can barely see it, but there's a lake back there. That's Eagle Lake, north of Susanville. And it's a pretty good spot here, but it got, well, you'll see in I think the next picture, but it got really, really windy. And I was afraid that it doesn't show, I might have another one, but this, that's the stepper 2 element was actually bending like a fishing pole. I mean, the wind was that, those are pretty stiff fiberglass rods and whatever, segmented fiberglass sections there, and they were bending quite a bit from the wind. And actually I had moved the tray. I think I lowered it after this because it started to pull a guy wire out of one side, and I thought the whole tower was going to drop on top of my truck. So I scrambled to move everything, and then I was able to lower it a little bit at a time and cinch up the guys as I went down, and got it down to a place where I felt it wasn't going to fall over anymore, and managed to go the rest of the weekend that way. This is it's actually looking out the back of my camper there, and just one of the, like I said before, it's kind of one of the parts of the going out like this. You just have these beautiful scenery all around you. Yeah, that looks like a fisheye lens shot, but that's the real curve and the elements on that antenna were blowing in the wind that strong. It was a little nerve-wracking for a while there, but okay. Same area, looking down at closer shot of Eagle Lake. It's got a pretty good reputation for trout fishing, from what I understand. But I've never wet a line there. But I sent a few electrons over the top of that over heading east. This is just kind of what had happened. I get there, I've got an old utility trailer that carries all my equipment, and I lay everything out and start 9, like I said, most of the time over the years, I've done this all by myself. And then I started, as I get up there in years a little bit, thinking, I better be a little more safe. If I fall off this ladder and, break my neck or whatever, there's nobody around to help me or do anything. So last couple of years, I've been bringing a friend with me that's not a ham, and then Frank this year was a ham. So the two-man teams really works out good. Glenn has been the best county for me in score-wise, and I've been there 3 different times, and I think at least the 2 top scores I've ever scored are from Glenn County, and it helps that nobody else is there, kind of thing. So they're looking for you, but I think it's also just, I went to 3 different spots there, and they all seem to play pretty good. And I'm sitting, that was just it's not the most comfortable setup in the world, and I'm kind of sitting there on different angles and various things, but I struggle through it, and it seems to work okay. Yeah, this was, I think, this is probably the best score I've ever got, or 1,320 Qs. I always run low power, I've never ran an amp or anything like that, nothing fancy, but when the conditions are good, they're looking for you, they come to you, so it turned out pretty good. Now this, one of the other guys here on the program tonight, N6YEU, and I went to, this is an area called Mendocino Pass. It's east of Covelo, which most people don't know where that is. That's in Mendocino, and then where you can come in from the Sacramento Valley side. We came in from, drove up north to Willits and then cut inland and came in to the top of this pass, and which is the county line between, it's actually, I think, 3 counties come together. It's Glenn, Mendocino, and I think if you go a little bit to the left here, you're into Tehama County. But we set up and had a pretty good score there. Al was Mendocino and I was Glenn, but we had a common shack, so to speak. The tent, that was our shack. You'll see another picture, I think. Yeah, this, unfortunately, this is out of focus, but I had my setup on the right, and we had, fan. It was kind of warm, and Al, he was set up on the table on the left. And he surprised me once and threw in his call one time, and oh, that's the guy right next to me. 86. Oh yeah. So yeah, and there's Al there. He's here. He lives in, I guess most of you know, but he's in Hawaii now. Also uses Kilo Hotel 6 Tango uniform. It's just same tent, same space. I'm just on the other side there. This is on the way there, but it's kind of an interesting place. This is called Round Valley, and it has a very illustrious history, but I won't get into all that. But this is just one of the sites that you see on your way to, when you're heading somewhere, you go through a lot of interesting country. A lot of it is very low inhabit, very, very low populations. This is a small town here, a few hundred people at most. It's down in there somewhere. You can't even see it. Now this was in 2015, kind of went in the same general area. You go through Round Valley and Covelo area, and then you start, I came in, the other one I showed was Trinity, was up by Redding. This is on the very southern end of the county, literally maybe a mile, if that, away from the Mendocino County line, but in Trinity. And we set up there. This is the one that kind of caught me by surprise because it was working good on Saturday. When the contest started up till about, 6 or 7 in the evening, and the wind came up. And this is probably the worst wind. You get wind every once in a while, but this thing was rocking my camper back and forth. And my friend that came to help me had a nylon, pretty good sized tent, not a backpacker one, but a tent. And it blew his tent down, pulled out half his tent pegs and everything. He came, I told him, get over here and get in the camper. And we tried to, carry on, but it kept getting worse and worse. And I said, yeah, we better just pull the plug here. So I disconnected all the radio gear and left everything. I left the tower up, and I left the camper even, maybe I lowered, I forget, but we drove down the road down into a forested area that was somewhat protected from the wind. And I pulled the plug, and next morning I got up, and fully expecting to see the tower laying on the ground, but it was still there. And I decided, well, the wind could come back. Should I stay? And I said, no, I gave out enough cues that Mendocino was probably, Trinity was probably, in the log of those who really needed it. So I took everything down, went home a little early. I probably was on the road by noon or earlier than that probably. So it wasn't a good year, but score wise, but for safety's sake, I decided to leave. Then last year, I had some friends that we have that were from Santa Rosa and they moved down to Madera County up by Oakhurst, kind of near Yosemite, the south end of Yosemite. And so I said, well, there's always a big demand for Madera County. So I operated, this is kind of cheating. I usually have a little generator, but I had shore power, or whatever you want to call it. I had a long extension cord plugged into the garage. But that was my shack. It used to be a barn for some mules that were there, the previous owners. And I set up in there and I set my, Army tower that I always usually bring with me. And I brought the old C3 back out of retirement. And actually Jim here had it for a few
Got
years.
it back from me.
And I've been taking the DX Club's 3-element stepper, which works nice, but I thought, well, I don't want it to fall down either. So I took this one and it was okay. It wasn't the world's greatest. It was a little bit on close to the top of a ridge, but not quite. So I don't know if the conditions were not all that great, but it wasn't a good score. But I gave out Madera to those who needed it. So this is just, heading out, just one of those proof shots. I guess I can say I was there, even though I could have got that off the internet. But I actually took the photo. And, let's see.
So I think this is a video.
Oh yeah, this might be it. Okay.
Yeah, I think it might clear up.
It's not as good as the original, huh?
Yeah. I tried the original one was looking that way too.
Yeah.
All right.
Probably when I sent it. Yeah, we can skip this. This didn't come out the way we were hoping, but
Phillips first class compared to the rest of them.
yeah, unfortunately, when I get on these expeditions, I've got actually a couple of pretty good videos from previous years, a little Nikon camera I had, but I didn't add those. But this is off my phone, and I guess when I emailed it to Jim, it lost a lot of the quality, because it was much better in real life.
Yeah, I think we'll skip it.
We'll skip that. Now this year, this is just like 3 weeks ago, I guess. I was in touch with Dean N6YEU, who kind of was the county coordinator for people that, trying to make sure somebody was in every county. And he contacted me and said that it was down to 4 counties I had checked a couple weeks earlier, and Madera was one of them, Plumas, Mendocino, and one other, Trinity maybe, that were very low. Either nobody was going there, or a couple of mobiles might stop in for a few hours or whatever. So I said, I'm willing to go in any of those. He said, well, then a couple of days later, the other 3 had pretty much got filled in. So he said, we still need somebody in Mendocino. And this guy Rebar, some of you might know, is N6DB, I think. They're DE and DB, but he had some friends that had this ranch up just almost not quite downtown Willits, but we could see the lights from the town where we were here. And this is a 300, 400 something acre ranch, and the guy rents it for people to keep their horses and stuff. Used to be a cattle ranch, and these are some of the horses that they were right down below us checking us out. This is Frank helping me, or I shouldn't say helping me, he was doing most of the work, setting up the tower and getting our C3 set up and pointing in the right direction and all that. It's a little bit of a project, but it doesn't, it's maybe an hour from start to finish when the antenna's up in the air. So it's much easier taking it down than it is putting it up. Just like field day, these are just some still shots here, but we had
we have a video.
Okay, yeah.
You want to show it now?
Yeah, or whatever the next. Yeah, Frank. I've known him now for many years. When he first got licensed in high school, I believe, and he's a top shot. Hot shot, there we go. Hot shot operator. The guy is amazing. He can sit there and I think we got the video, but He's
do.
working the pile ups or whatever, and and watching YouTube videos and texting his friends and everything else, and talking to me at the same time. So he's
Frank,
multitasker.
Frank, they say if you can do this, you're ready for SO2R. The audio is really low, but wait, hang on a second. Do you see the video?
When we see the screen where it says play again, go to library, previous
Okay.
list.
Okay.
Yeah, that's as loud as it gets.
That is, I got it.
We're losing.
So Frank's running, I think he's on 80. Then I probably texted him.
That was the one good thing about this spot. We had good internet access and so our cell connections, whatever, in the gym, and yeah, we're not hearing the audio at all.
The first time he sent it,
The guy that he was working was sending crappy code.
the first time he sent
Sounded like a different letter.
delayed after, so it was G.
That was a different video. There's one of Frank running on 80 and then texting at the same time.
Yeah. These couple video things we tacked on at the end here. My original presentation didn't have this year, and so it's probably.
There we go, over here.
But bear with us, we're almost done.
So Fred, is there anybody who's been to more counties than you have?
I'm not sure.
Doubtful.
Here, N6YEU, he's one of my inspiration guys because he did a lot. I know he's done many, and then N6DE did a lot. Then he got married, and I think he's kind of slowed down on his. Although he did operate this year from Sierra, but he missed a few years there. But there's a little core of hardcores, I guess, that like to do this kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm not sure how many Al's done, but I could be. I don't know. It's 20.
Yeah, I think you've done a lot more than I have.
Yeah.
But I've sat on county lines, which can get you a 2 for 1.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
Shied away from that, but I guess didn't they stop doing that for a while? But now they're back. You can do both. It can
Right.
some guys. They
It's
don't.
just more characters to send.
Yeah, but you get more counties that way too. And one QSO. I worked one guy in this last CQP that was on 3 counties on a county tri-point.
Jeez, yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I'll have to try that sometime. I just always never done it, but. Oh, that was
Okay. Are you seeing the picture of Frank and Fred?
Yeah.
Okay. It's not.
But I've always encouraged our club here, the Redwood Empire DX Club. We've butted heads against the Mother Lode Club for years and years. We've always taken second. I think way back we might have won 1 or 2, but then they've kind of changed the rules now, so we're considered a small club. We didn't have enough butts in the chair, so to speak. So I think we're doing okay. We may do okay this year. I'm not sure. I'm not going to say we guaranteed winners, but I think we did pretty good for the small club division. But every year I try to encourage some of our members to go portable because most everybody likes to stay home, but I just totally enjoy going out. It's a lot of work. I start about a week ahead of time, tearing everything. I basically dismantle my main station and take it somewhere and then come back and put it all back together. But, getting all camping equipment and sleeping bag, food. I'm never good at food. I can actually cook stuff, but I usually bring a lot of fig bars and Snicker, just eat stuff you can eat quick and salami and cheese sandwiches. You know, I make my own, you know, I just kind of hunt and peck and eat and go, you know, when I'm doing the contest. But it's always nice to get out there and really see some nice country, and it makes a lot of people happy. You know, the guys that are out there looking for all the counties, being able to have all 58 counties represented is kind of one of my reasons for going out there. And it's nice to be, and now this, going back to where we were this year, Frank and I, that's one of the big smoke plumes from what they call, well, it says up there, the August complex fire. That was kind of coming up from either way northern Mendocino or very southern Humboldt County. But we were looking at, when we got there, we drove from Santa Rosa and I thought, oh, we're going to get out of all the smoke down here in Sonoma County. We got up to Willits and it was probably worse up there. And then the wind would come up and it'd clear up. And then next thing you know, it's back, you know. So we had a little bit of smoke to.
We can see in that picture there how the hills kind of disappear.
Yes, yeah, it's all milky and smoky on the left, and then on the right you got the, oh yeah, plus that. But yeah, so but we survived. We, you know, I'm sure we breathed a little more of that stuff than we should have, but it wasn't horrible. This, you know, this is like borderline, well, not borderline, this is kind of field day style type operating. You know, it's kind of like being on a de-expedition, but you don't have to go so far. So we're set up there in the tent and we trade off. Frank did probably, I don't know, 2/3 maybe of the operating. I'm not sure. He did a lot of CW. We did both, but he kind of hit the key more than, or the F key and the real key. A lot more than the mic key, so to speak. And,
This is the one. So
hopefully we can hear this one. This is. He's watching his video. Pretty amazing. Yeah, it was fun to get together with Frank and do that. And this is again.
That's a nice shot.
Yeah, it came out nice, like early in the morning, sun coming
Sunday
up.
morning.
Yeah.
That little fog.
The beam is pointed at the traditional 70 degrees, or where, you know, the supposedly optimum. You know, we never really moved it the whole weekend. Every once in a while, I obviously, you know, I don't always just rely on that. I'll tend to move it from by myself. I'll go south, north, whatever. But we just pretty much worked. We worked, you know, like Alaska, Hawaii. You know, Al, they're 86E. We were KH60U. We worked him off the almost like the side, I think. But and we had the HF2V, and then we had an inverted V trap dipole that Frank brought along, and we had a couple other antennas, but we never needed to use them. And the place on the right there, that white patch, is legal marijuana greenhouse place there. And we sneaked over one night and borrowed a couple leaves. But that the owner told us he claims that's what it is. There was another big building. We thought, oh, that's got to be a marijuana grow, but it was a horse barn for indoor horse arena. But this is supposedly like a greenhouse, plastic covered PVC pipe type thing, but all out.
The guy came out twice a day and turned on a pump. Yeah.
So anyway, it's that was this year, and it was a nice spot, and the weather worked out good. It never got really too cold or too hot, and but there was smoke, like I said. But obviously, in this picture, there was long gone that time. And yeah, this is just, you know, typical shots of. I made sure, because of all the fires this year, I was double protecting. I put the generator up on a pallet, scraped the dirt. It was already pretty clean there, but I made sure anything that could burn for about 10 feet was gone. And I brought a bucket of water, shovels, 2 fire extinguishers, and the Honda generator has spark arresters and everything. So it was pretty safe, but that's the absolute last thing in the world I wanted was to start another fire. So fortunately, there was no problem with that at all, but definitely I had it in my back of my mind to be careful. And that's just a selfie that we took. And I think that's probably the end of the, oh yeah. These are my 2 little, can't see them very good. But anyway, these are my 2 little dogs. Unfortunately, both of them I lost this year due to about 6 months apart due to various and sundry reasons. But I took them on probably 5 or 6 CQPs. They go out and hunt for bugs and mice, and I'd hunt for multipliers. So, well, they're just searching for multipliers. This is just another early morning shot, sunrise, and then the camera threw in a flash there, so it kind of lit up the foreground. So it came out now. That's just one of your pretty shots that you get up when you're out there in the middle of nowhere. And there's just a shot, you know, coming home and reversing the whole process, putting everything back, putting everything away. I usually come home on Monday, the day after. In the past, when I was working, I had to basically come home and go to work the next day. So either way, I usually leave the stuff in the trailer for a couple of days. I've had enough. Screw it, I'll put it away when I get time. So I do eventually, but it's a lot of work, but it's fun. And just this is the end of it. Finally, the pain will end now. But anyway, I hope you got something out of it. It's, I appreciate Jim helping me a lot to fancy it up a little bit, but I scraped together enough photos to make it work. So anyway, thanks for those of you who showed up, and hope you enjoyed it. And I guess we are gonna.
Any questions?
Well, there's Ron. Hi, Ron.
Have you considered bringing an amplifier, and think it would help your score any?
Yeah, that's what everybody said. I'm thinking, I'm toying with like a KP 500 or one of those, like a.
This year we sure wanted it.
500 or 600 watts would definitely help. I'm not going to be bringing a gallon and a half, whatever, but some light, smaller amp would probably help, And,
on 40 and 80, it would have been nice.
Yeah. So, but I think it would definitely help the score, but the benefit, you have the DB of being in a rare county helps a lot too. So they're looking for you, which helps a lot, but they'd probably get a lot, like you say, the score would probably be better with a little bit more juice out there.
Hey, Fred, with all those trips, you must have forgotten some things sometime. What's the one thing that you wish you hadn't forgotten in that 20 years?
Well, actually, I've been pretty lucky until the last couple of years, but 2 years ago, I had
the gas.
2 radios. I brought 2 rigs. I had my Yaesu 950 and I think the ICOM 7300. And I thought I left one of the power cords at home. And I went to the backup and found out that the cords were compatible. I could have used the same cord would work, even though it was a Yaesu and ICOM, I think. I forget. But then this year, I have to admit, this was the worst of all. I usually sometimes I store the radio equipment for our DX club for field day at my place, and in exchange for rent, I talk the board into letting me keep one of them up on my tower to make sure it works, you know, and stuff. So, and we have two of those 3-element beams. So I said, well, nobody put in a request to borrow one, for I'll take the 3-element again this year. So I got it all connected, disconnected. It's hanging in my garage. And so I took it, and it comes in the boom takes apart in 3 sections, and got it all loaded. And I said, you know, I better throw in the C3 Force 12 as a backup in case one of the motors breaks down or whatever. I guess I had a premonition. So anyway, I get up there, and we're all starting to unload stuff. And Frank says, Fred, where are the fiberglass elements? So I had left them hanging up in the garage. We have a special container to put them in. Oh man, I had no elements. You know, the stepper cable or the copper beryllium tapes would go out and just drop on the ground. There's nothing to go into. So okay, and I was about. I mean, obviously a few expletives came from my mouth, but I decided to say, well, I can drive back. Thank God it was only in Willis. I was ready I would have driven home, but I said, well, let's try the C3, and it's here while we got it. So we put it up, and it worked fine. But I was about ready to call my brother-in-law who lives next door, and could you get these elements out of my garage, and I'll maybe meet you in Cloverdale. We can meet halfway, but it worked out. We didn't, but had I have not brought that C3, it would have been a long drive, well, 90 miles home to get the rest of the antenna. But other than that, I think I've been pretty lucky. I don't think of anything major, not enough to stop me from operating for the weekend. I try to bring a couple of rigs just in case one for some reason dies, and I have a couple of different wire antennas and stuff, but I'm just kind of hoping for the best and nothing major fails me, especially if I'm like, if I was way up and 300 mile, like Del Norte County's 300-mile drive from home, and get up there and find out you don't have something. That's not good. There's no Radio Shack on the corner to buy stuff. So anyway, I think that was all. Been relatively lucky over the years. Weather.
Have you ever looked around at how many records you hold in all the different counties?
Nah.
There's a ton of them.
A few, but I held some low power records just because I guess because I was the only one that did it. I don't know. They're pretty good scores, but I think a couple will hang in there for a while, especially when the sunspot cycles aren't the best. But I'm not in it that much. I mean, there's always a little looking for a little personal satisfaction, get your name out there and stuff, but it's not the main motivating factor whether I set a record or not. But I just try to do a good score and make sure that whatever county I go to gets put in as many logs as possible. But obviously I've never won the actual county expedition trophy. In fact, Al, I think, was one of the guys. He was a nice guy, because I think at one time they only had one plaque, and I think he donated I got second place county expedition, because there's no low power, high power division. So if I go against some guy that's running high power, I get my tail kicked. But by myself, single power, or a low power, I should say, I've picked up, 4 or 5 plaques for second place, over the years, but never won the thing yet. And I forgot to bring this year was kind of fun. Frank and I got all 58 multipliers, and 2 of them from the Northern Territory in Canada, which a lot of guys never got one, so we were pretty happy about that we got the all multipliers. And I've got 58 several times and 57 more times, and then a couple of real bad years when I got like 48 or whatever. But so usually you can get most of the multipliers. You just have to work for it and let them come to you. I do about 50% by myself. I go 50% CW, 50% phone, roughly. And that seems to work out okay. I like doing both, but some guys like to hit CW the whole time, but I figure there's a lot more phone guys cruising the band that are just maybe going to give you a cue once in a while. They're not really that hardcore contesters. So I kind of work the phone bands too, just to fill in the gaps, I guess. Anyway, any other questions?
Just a quick comment. it was a great time that we spent together on that 1 year up at Glen Mendocino. I've been to that site 4 or 5 times, and it's always a fun place to go back to. So if anybody else has any thoughts about doing something like this, I highly recommend it. And if you can go with Fred, that's a real treat too.
I don't know about that. But, you know, unfortunately, Al, I think from the little bit of research I've done, I think that whole area was burned in the fires this year and went right over the top of that Mendocino Pass. And that's the one that went actually the fire that we showed in the last picture it'd gone all the way to Humboldt County, and it started down, and I'm afraid a lot of that area has been burned, you know, but I can't say for 100% sure, but it didn't look
Well,
good.
the takeoff was really good, so it'll still be a good takeoff even
Yeah.
after it was burned.
It won't be as a picturesque
That's true.
forest place, but it definitely still a good spot. Yeah, it drops right into Sacramento Valley. You're looking east, and they come to you one after another.
Oh, one story about that particular site. I saw your photo with the gun, and was thinking, you know, I've been to those, you know, a lot of places like that, and I never take a gun. And there was 1 year when I was up in Glen that I took a break Saturday afternoon or something like that, and took a little walk out to Butte Mountain. I think that's where I was at. And ran across a couple of hunters that were looking out over the valley. As I walked up to them, they looked at me, they looked at each other, and looked back at me again. And the first thing that came out of their mouths was, "Where's your gun?" I said, "I don't have one." And they looked at each other again. Didn't really know what to make of the whole situation. So you get some interesting people up there too.
I've never had any real. One time I was in a place in Mendocino. I showed up on top where it was like a helicopter pad, like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm sleeping and I hear this vehicle going really slow just below me, and I don't think they could see me. I think what the guys were like out, you know, coon hunting or something. You know, I think they were hunting. They weren't. I don't think they even saw my tent trailer. But man, at the time, you know, my little heart's going like, "What the hell are these guys doing?" You know, and they were going like 5 miles an hour, very slow. You could hear the tires going through the gravel, but they just kept moving, and you could hear them talking. But that's the only time. And then I've had game wardens come up to me and a couple times, "Are you hunting?" "No, I'm just, I'm hunting. I'm playing radio, trying to explain it." But never had anybody, you know, really bother me or try to harm or anything. So.
No, they're all pretty cool people. Somebody asked about, you know, things that you might have forgotten out there, and I'll add one to that. And that's some sort of a battery charger. When I was on the last Plumas county line, which was about half a mile off the dirt road, just driving between the trees to get to the county line point. It was a nice place, but I left the back door of the car slightly open. And Sunday, I packed up the car to go home, and I couldn't get it started because the battery was dead. And I was thinking, you know, gee, I've got a generator in the back of the car. I've got all this electronic stuff. I've got no way to charge the battery. I had to go down to the road, and I flagged down a hunter who followed me on foot off road to get me a jump to get the car started. Fortunately, it worked out fine, but that was a good one.
It's good to know.
Lessons to learn in the field.
Yeah. Al's done quite a few. He's and was he what was remember Denny? What was his call?
Well, KX7M.
Yeah, he did a lot of DX county.
He did a couple of them.
A while there.
He still holds a record in Plumas. So yeah, he beat my record that was there. But you know, my records are pretty easy to beat. It's hard to get out to those places to get up a good enough station to build up a good score.
That's right. Well, cool. Well, I thank everybody for those of you who could bear with it and hung in here the whole time. It's nice to see everybody. It's kind of nice to have a fairly good represented, a lot of guests tonight, which is good. That's the one benefit of this whole Zoom technology is we can have people come from anywhere, literally anywhere in the world, I guess. So not only are just our normal members, so that's good. I'm glad you came.
Yeah, thank you all for coming.
Thanks, Fred.
I guess with that,
Okay, take care.
All right.
We'll see you in sweepstakes.
Buonanotte, Giuseppe.
Ciao. Nice work.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks very much.